Welcome to the video. In this video I want to talk about budget FPV. Now what I would recommend for somebody starting out in FPV is a very common question, and back in May of 2015 I did a video about what I'd recommend if you were starting out in first person view flying and wanted to get some decent kit without breaking the bank. Now here we are over a year later. Things have changed dramatically. Lots of new technologies come out and we've tried and tested lots of additional products too. So what I'm going to do is update that video from last year. So if you've come to this video from the links in that older video, then welcome. What I'd also say is all the information in here is our thinking as of July 2016, and if you are looking at this significantly after July 2016, I just check in the description in case there's a later version as well. Now what I'm going to go through is two setups that I typically end up talking to people about. One is the super simple for those people who just want a plug and play without all the hassle of trying to figure out connection wires and other pieces too. And then we'll also do a slightly more sophisticated version because not everybody wants it really simple. Some people, like myself, like to tinker around and add things as well. So let's start out by looking at the very first thing, which is what we'd recommend today for all-in-one goggles. As of now, I'd say it has to be the Quantum Cyclops. The Quantum Cyclops is one of the first of the latest generation of all-in-one goggles. It hasn't got all of the features that some of the bigger pieces have. It doesn't have AV out or audio out. It doesn't have HDMI in. It doesn't have a digital video recorder built into it. It doesn't support things like diversity, but it has a really nice set of optics. The screen works really well. The receiver is nice and sensitive, the auto scan feature is brilliant, and for somebody that's just coming into FPV that just wants to have a crack at it without learning all of the ins and outs, it's a great option, and it's really inexpensive as well. At the moment they are struggling to keep them in stock at Hobby King, but when you see them I would get a pair if you're coming into FPV. Next thing we'll talk about then is the camera and FPV transmitter. If you are looking at the super simple style, then I would go for the Ionway VTX with integrated 700 TVL line cameras. Now loads of places sell these. It's a little backpack thing, and we have ours, or one of ours, plugged onto the top of a Texumo flying wing, and it works beautifully. The camera isn't the absolute best you'll ever get, but the fact that it plugs into the little backpack without any messing about, and the only thing you have to do is then connect a battery to the JST connector that comes out the back of the video transmitter. Everything else is taken care of you. This is the one I recommend. It's small, lightweight, you can stick it to pretty much any existing craft you already have, and you don't have to worry about routing wires around. Probably not the most aerodynamic of things that you've ever seen in your life, but we still use ours all the time, and when it's a cheap and cheerful craft where we're not worried about it maybe getting a little busted up, then the Ionway is the one that we tend to go for. Next one then is antennas. Now many of us in the hobby and lots of RC channels are raving about these things. These are the Ionway circular polarized antennas. I think they do a red version. We tend to have lots and lots of the blue version here. They're really inexpensive. They're like 11-12 quid for a pair. They hold their position so you can actually bend them into position. We even created a little 3D printable shroud for them if you are worried about the tops getting bent. But in our experience you really have to have a spectacular crash to damage the alignment of the wires at the top, whereas with some other ones that we've used in a crash, then you then spend the next 20 minutes carefully trying to realign everything. These Ionways are really sensitive, they have great resistance to multipathing, and they just work. So I would get a pair of these, put one on your all-in-one Quantum goggles and put one on your Ionway transmitter, and then you've got both sides sorted out. Some people don't want it that basic. Occasionally, people want a more modular solution, and for those at the moment, I'd say that you're probably looking at a Quantum V2 or a Quantum V2 Pro. These are slightly larger goggles. They don't have integrated receivers or anything else, but the V2 Pro has improved optics, and it's a slightly nicer package. Because the V2 and V2 Pro don't have an integral receiver, I'd recommend that you go with something like a Quantum Auto Scan FPV receiver. Again, it's a very sensitive receiver. We use them a lot. I think the display on them is absolutely fantastic. And if you end up with a ground station, you can also plug them into that too, using the RSSI out cable that you get with them. Next thing to talk about then is the camera and FPV transmitter. Again, nothing wrong with that Ionway set that we've already had a look at. There are loads of 700 TVL line cameras now. The Ionways are really good. Things like the Run Cam's really good. You've got things like the Fat Shark stuff is also worth considering if you want to be modular. Fat Shark do things like widescreen versions if you're running a set of goggles that have a slightly wider aspect ratio. And I'd recommend running them with something like the Quantum Elite video transmitters. Now, these video transmitters are brilliant. There's quite a few of them around now. They have a beautiful clear signal, and also importantly, they allow you to select the kind of power out that you want. So they're either 25 milliwatts, which is the legal limit in lots of places, or you can buy them so they go up to 200 or even things like 600 milliwatts as well. Having this slightly more modular way means you can put the camera where you need it to, and then you can mount your video transmitter inside the body of the quadcopter, multi-rotor, plane, flying wing, whatever it is, and have a slightly sleeker solution. Next thing then is the antennas. Yep, I'd still go with the Ionways. They're fantastic. They're really good. I love them, and I've just ordered another 4 to replace some of the older ones because every time I use them I'm impressed. And then finally, FPV screen. Some people don't like goggles, particularly those that have to wear glasses or have some kind of visual impairment. Sometimes the optics don't work great. And also having something like an FPV screen is a great way to show other people what you're doing. And I'd recommend if you're starting out on FPV with something like a plane, that when you're trying to fly it, using something like a screen can be great because you can have your line of sight view and then you can glance down at the screen and see what the plane can see. The FPV screen at the moment that we are most impressed with, and we've got quite a few ground stations. We've got the Hobby King one, we've had the Blackpearl Diversity one, which we've loved. It's very, very portable. We also made one out of a case, but the one we really love right now is the Eachine LCD 5802D. We're in the process of doing a review video for that. So again, go and have a look at that one. That's a really nice display. It has an attached hood that flips out, which is great when you're using it in brighter sunlight. The diversity connectors on it work really well, and it also has an inbuilt DVR too. So with the press of a button, you can record the image you're seeing in the screen onto a little mini SD card, and then you can watch it back later. It also provides an AV out cable at the side. So for example, if you had your Quantum V2s, rather than plug them into the Autoscan FPV receiver attached at the side, you could then get a link off the diversity signal coming out of that FPV screen, and that provides you with a real nice rounded way to not only get up there and fly, add this stuff to your craft, but also record it as well. So those are the things that I would recommend. If you're looking for the basics, then I would go with our first list. If you're looking at modular stuff, then today I would recommend considering the second. Now again, this is personal preference. Everyone has their own opinion with these things. This just happens to be our favourites right now. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. There are lots of other videos on the channel, and they're carefully ordered into playlists, so you may find that there are other videos on this same subject that you can go and watch. So I would recommend going into the playlist area of Painless 360 YouTube channel and looking around and seeing what there is. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.